Imagine living in fear knowing someone who committed a horrific crime is walking free. Families left without answers. Families left without answers. Victims without justice. But over the past decade, something incredible has happened. 545 cold cases have been solved thanks to the advancements in forensic technology. That's 545 victims that got justice and 545 families who got their questions answered. Science is no longer just a tool, it's a game changer in the seemingly impossible, My name is Joshua Soria-Rios.
My name is Naomi Walker.
My name is Jocelyn Sarah.
And my name is Yanka Rodias. And today, our target focus is how have the advancements of forensic DNA technology positively impacted the resolution of cold case murders in the United States over the past decade.
First, we're going to consider the legal matters and what it has done for forensic science. Forensic science DNA has exonerated the innocents, proved innocence, and also implicated people of interest in many criminal cases. For example, the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project has helped many people overcome wrongful convictions and has helped identify perpetrators in many cold cases. Some of the methods, starting off with forensic science a long time ago, started off with ballistics and fingerprinting, and then that led to probabilistic genotyping models. That caused for better analysis DNA evidence because it is more precise to figure out what type of DNA structure that they do have. Moving on to success rate. Forensic DNA has significantly increased closing historical cases and old historical cases that you go back to now, and that in criminal justice cases you go back to now and realize that you can find who did the murder, cold case murder. As you can see here, the 4 benefits of DNA testing in criminal investigations. Number 1, identification of suspects. DNA evidence helps eliminate suspects who were not on the scene that they may have thought were on the scene, but now it does lead to and traces to the people who need to be investigated in the crime. Science has made it easier in so many ways to find people of interest in cases when there may not be any evidence at all. Number 2, exoneration of the innocent. The innocent DNA evidence makes it so much easier to keep false convictions of innocent people by proving genetic material does not match previous evidence. Number 3, solving cold cases. DNA evidence has helped solve many cold cases and accurately identify links criminal cases and increase the risk of being caught in life-threatening fear, discourages potential offenders from committing crimes. Number 4, deterrence. Deterrence is the meaning of why would you commit a crime when there would be evidence of you committing the crime and it would be very easy for you to get caught with it? Why would you commit a crime when the DNA evidence is shown that you're the person who committed the crime and you would be put away for jail for many, many years?
Investigators take certain steps when using advanced forensic technology to solve cold cases. The first step is to collect DNA from the crime scene. This can be preserved DNA from when the case was first opened, or it could be DNA they collected just recently. They then interpret the DNA using STR. STR stands for short tandem repeat, looking at how many times the DNA sequence is repeating. This creates a DNA profile of the culprit, which can then be used to search public databases to find any potential matches. In most cases, these profiles can end up linking distant relatives to the culprit. This was said by Prute Young. Public databases may be used to make a family tree to narrow investigators' search. This is an example of how a family tree may look. As you can see, you have the different generations through the family. Each person has their own unique sequence of DNA. Each person takes someone's DNA as they go down the line, which is how investigators narrow their search. This helps solve cold cases faster because it can work without as much evidence. It also solves the problem of the lack of eyewitnesses. Even if you can't get a story out of anyone, you still have reliable information to convict your suspect. According to this pie chart from the ISHI report, 76% of cold cases are solved with 15 hours of research. 14% is solved with under 15 hours of research, and 10% is solved with over 15 hours of research. This reveals that the new advancements in forensic technology positively impacted the resolution of cold cases because it increased the speed at which they are being solved. Most of the cases were solved with or under 15 hours of research, which is an insanely good amount of time, seeing as some of these cases have been open for years on end.
One man, three identities. For decades, no one knew that Joseph James D'Angelo was the Night Stalker and the Golden State Killer, both thought to be separate criminals. DNA technology changed everything. It connected his crimes across multiple decades, proving once and for all that Joseph James D'Angelo was the mastermind behind the two cases. This breakthrough in forensic technology and forensic science brought long overdue justice to victims and their families. Let's talk about a case that changed forensic science forever. In 1988, 8-year-old April Tinsley was kidnapped and murdered. Her case went cold for over 20 years, but thanks to Paravan Nanolabs and genealogy data, her killer, John Miller, was identified and arrested. This case was revolutionary. It showed the world that forensic genealogy could solve decade-old cases, crimes, bringing hope to unsolved cases, changing the course of forensic investigations forever.
Although forensic evidence has been proven to be such a reliable source of evidence to be used in the courtroom, some may argue that it contains certain limitations, such as admissibility, credibility, and the use of consent. Credibility is the essential idea that the source from where the evidence comes from is a valid enough source to be used in the courtroom, while admissibility is a special connection or relationship it has to a legal matter at hand. For example, if me and Josh were to be related, and Josh may have committed a crime, researchers can track both of us down due to us sharing the same genetic material, as previously stated by my colleague Jocelyn. However, researchers can wrongfully accuse me of committing Josh's crime. With still given time and new advancements in this form of technology, researchers can rightfully accuse Josh and righteously put him in his place. Another example is through private-owned companies such as 23andMe. These ancestry tracing companies store our genetic material into certain databases where we unknowingly give our consent to these companies, where researchers can go into these databases and look through our genetic material. With all this being said, DNA is still such a reliable source only when used properly, which leads to our next point. How does it impact the future generation? With this form of technology is constantly evolving and changing day in and day out, it is only certain that the new generation will create new tools and innovations that it will not only create a safer society, as the cold cases are being resolved at a much quicker rate, but will also update policies, which leads to our conclusion and solution. We believe that DNA websites should create clear consent models that give users a clear explanation whether or not they want to give the information to law enforcement. They should also strengthen privacy policies where it limits user exposure. In other words, saying that it should hide our information such as our names, addresses, and other legal sources of information. This way, users can limit the identity exposure while also still being able to confidently give our information to these certain databases. To this day, forensic science still proves to be such an amazing source of evidence to be used in the courtroom. We want to thank you for listening to our presentation and to always be on the lookout for new discoveries in DNA technology and advancements. Thank you.
All right, Jocelyn, we'll start on your side. Jocelyn, give me one one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of Yanko's paper.
My thinking changed as a result of Yanko's paper because he had the lens of legal. The legal lens showed us the limitations to forensic technology because people don't want their names and addresses out on public databases. They want to keep their information secure. So this also helped the presentation because it gave us our limitations.
Yanko, sir, what's an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' reports that you decided not to use and why?
So an example would be Josh's lens of economic. As though it gave us a lot of information on how costly forensic science can be, it didn't fully support our overall argument, so we decided to exclude that from the presentation.
And Josh, what is the way in which your team's solution makes you think differently about the research you conducted?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What's a way in which your team's solution makes you think differently about the research you conducted?
The way that our resolution made me think differently on how research was by taking into account that, similar to what Jocelyn said, that a lot of people don't want their information out there from Yanko's study, which mostly had to do with our conclusion of this presentation.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just scribbling something down. Save the best for last. If you had a fifth member of your team, what would be their perspective or limitation, or whatever they could bring that would help out your overall presentation?
If I had a fifth member on my team, the lens I would want them to have is social, because I would want to know the social aspect of how forensic science has evolved over the years and how it has made people feel safer as a society, because of the fact that it's very easy now to figure out who did the case, because of the fact that forensic DNA has evolved so much over the years.